Hello guys, welcome to a new video. And in this video, we are going to be configuring IKE version 1, and we are going to be configuring two types of IKE version 1 with IPSEC, which is SVTI, which is only a point-to-point VPN tunnel, and then we are going to configure a DVTI, which is a dynamic virtual tunnel interface. And the first configuration that we're going to be doing is going to be R4 and the hub right here. So this one is going to have a SVTI tunnel or static virtual tunnel interface or a point-to-point interface. Um, the difference between SVTI and DVTI is that SVTI, if you're going to create an SVTI, you need to have multiple, like if you're going to have multiple tunnels, or if you're going to have multiple tunnels, you're going to have multiple interfaces. So for every SVTI, you need to have multiple interfaces that takes resources in your router. But if you're going to configure DVTI, you are able to use just one tunnel, and that tunnel can create multiple interfaces for different routers over here. So whenever I configure that dynamic virtual tunnel interface, and it's going to be connecting to these three routers over here. I'm only going to be using this one interface. But if you're going to configure SVTI for multiple, for like these three routers over here, you're going to have, or you're going to need three different interfaces. And that is the difference between DVTI and SVTI. So let's go ahead and start with the configuration. The first one that we're going to be configuring is going to be the hub, and it's going to be SVTI. So it's going to be gigabit 02, which is connected to R4. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with that SVTI. The first thing that we need to configure is we need to configure IKE version 1 phase 1 and also um, IKE version 1 phase 2, IPsec transform set, and yes, and the tunnel interfaces as well. So let's go ahead and start with that. Um, so for IKE version 1 phase 1, you need to do a crypto ISAC policy. So we need to configure a policy, and this one is going to be policy, like just say, yeah, number 4, that's fine. And in here, you need to provide the encryption that we're going to be using. We are going to be using 3-dash hashing algorithm. It's going to be ND5, different Hammond group number 2. Hashing is going to be ND. Ooh, yeah, I already did ND5. So the authentication method, pre-share key. After that, you need to configure the other IKE version 1 phase 1 configuration, which is the key. Crypto, ISAC key, CCNP security. The address that's going to be using this key, we need to specify right here. So this key is going to be for 30.1.1.2. So we want to use the CCNP security whenever we want to authenticate with 30.1.1.2, which is router for 30.1.1.2. There we go. So that is done. After that, we need to go ahead and configure IKE version 1 phase 2. So, and that means crypto. That means that we're going to be configuring IPsec. So we have to configure first the transform set, and we are going to be calling this SVTI set. And this one is going to be ESP AES for data confidentiality 256, and then ESP for data integrity SHA with HMAC. We are going to leave everything. Let's just do the mode tunnel. And after that is done, we need to go ahead and configure crypto IPsec. And this one is going to be the profile. And inside this profile, we are going to be attaching the transform set. So set, transform set. We are going to copy this SVTI set and attach it right here to the IPsec profile. So we are done configuring IKE version 1 phase 1 and phase 2. All right, after that is done, we need to go ahead and configure the interface tunnel, and this one is going to be tunnel 4. And in this tunnel, you need to first give it a source, and the source of the source of the hub that is connecting to router 4, it is gigabit 02. So gigabit 02. Tunnel destination, right here, you need to give it a destination of 30.1.1.2. And this is what makes it a point-to-point. Whenever you do a tunnel destination, and you provide that destination, that means that it is going to be a point-to-point. And on DVTI, you do not do tunnel destination, but you do these tunnel source. And then after you do that, you want to do tunnel mode IPSEC, and we're going to be using IPv4, so we do IPv4. Okay. After that is done, you need to configure a an IP address for this tunnel interface. And what we are going to be doing is we are going to be borrowing that loopback IP address. So we need to do an IP or number, and we are going to say that we're going to be using loopback 9 IP address. So now if we do a do show IP interface brief, you're going to see that tunnel 4 is borrowing and is taking loopback 9 IP address 9.9.9.9.9. Okay. After that is done, you need to add the tunnel protection. We are using IPsec profile, and that IPsec profile that we created was called SVTI profile. And paste it right here, and that's going to bring up ISACamp. So ISACamp is now on. Okay. So that is done with this configuration, with this SVTI configuration on the hub. So now we need to configure in router 4. And since do not want to, um, I don't want to do configure everything on router 4. So what I want to do is I want to go ahead and copy and paste the egress1 phase 1 and egress1 phase 2 configuration from the hub to router 4, because it is going to be exactly the same, almost the same. So you want to do a show run, and you want to do a section crypto section, and right here is going to provide you with the policy, because all this needs to match, and also the key, the transform set, and also the IPsec profile. So we are going to copy this, and we are going to put it into a leaf pad or a notepad, whatever you're using. And the only thing that we need to change for this one is going to be the key that needs to match, and it just needs to point to 30.1.1.1. Okay, and then we also need to do a show run, and we want to get this tunnel that we have configured, which is going to be almost the same. So we are going to just copy this right here and paste it on leaf pad. There we go. And we also need to do EIGRP. So let's go ahead and configure EIGRP on the hub. Config T, router EIGRP. We are going to call it EIGRP4. Let's just go ahead and do another summary network. The network that we need to add right here, I want to add just the IP address of the tunnel. You can do yep, just match everything. There we go. So if we do now, do show run and do a section EIGRP, so we can copy all of it. Or actually, there we go, copy. Just paste it on LivePad. And all we need to do is just change this. And you're going to see that even though, did I configure this correctly? Yep. Even though, no, actually, whatever the IP address, I think it's for the for the loopback address that I'm going to be using for the tunnel on router 4. So all we need to do is we need to the loopback, the IP number, I think it's going to be loopback 4. We can go ahead and verify that in a second. And the tunnel destination is to say 30.1.1.1 for router 4. So let's go ahead into router 4, and do show IP interface brief and verify my configuration. Yep, so we're going to be using loopback 4. I got loopback 4, and the network is going to be 4.4.4.4. And you're going to see that even though they are not in the same um, network, they're still going to form a neighbor relationship with EIGRP. So let's go ahead and just copy all of this and paste that in router 4. And that's going to do all my configuration. There we go, no errors. ISAC can be sung, and you can see that EIGRP has a neighbor relationship in 204. And you can see that the neighbor is 9.9.9.9.9. And even though it's not in the same network, it was still able to form a neighbor relationship. And if you want to do some show commands, you can do show IP EIGRP neighbors. You can see that we have the neighbors. Show IP routes and just show EIGRP. You can see that I have a EIGRP route. We got here another command that you can do if you want to verify um, the IKEv1 phase 1 configuration. You can do a show crypto ISAC IPSEC. You can see that we have a destination to 30.1.1.2 and the sources to 30.1.1.1. And you can, if you want to verify um, phase 2 of IKEv1, you can just go ahead and do a show crypto IPsec SA. You can see that the um, the current peer is 30.1.1.1, which is the hub. You can see that we're using port 500 because we're not using NAT traversal. If you're using NAT traversal, then it's going to be port 4500. The endpoint is 30.1.1.2, the local endpoint, and the remote endpoint is 30.1.1.1. And also you can do a show crypto IPsec SA details. It shows you uh, more details. Or if you do a SA details, you can also see details over here. And another command that I really like is a show crypto engine. Do I have that? Yeah, show crypto engine connection active. And that gives you all the active connections. And you can see that we have it right here. And this one has encrypted and this one has decrypted, right? And here are the IP addresses. And it is using IPsec for this. And this one is using IKEv1. And it's using MD5 plus 3 des. And for IPsec, we're using AES 256 with SHA and also HMAC. All right, so this is it for this SVTI configuration. And like I said, for SVTI, if you're going to configure another connection, you have to have another interface. But for DVTI that we're going to configure next, you are able to only use one interface and have multiple router connected to it. So since we are done with router 4, let's go ahead and put it all the way at the end. And let's go ahead and configure DVTI. So the first thing that you need to do for DVTI is the same thing that we did before. So we need to configure IKEv1 phase 1 and IKEv1 phase 2. Let's go ahead and do that. Crypto, ISACamp, policy, and we are just going to use policy, we're just going policy number 8. And here, um, we need to have, just give me 1 second, spill my cup. Not a good time to spill my water. 1 second. Hopefully my mouse works. After I spill water over it. And that's why I always have napkins all over because I always spill water. All right. Not a good time. All right. Let's see the mouse. It's not working, guys. So my mouse has stopped working. Just give me 1 second. Okay, the mouse is working again. Good. So, like ISACamp policy 8, and this one is going to be for the DVTI. Okay, we have to provide the encryption. We are going to use 3-dash hashing. It's going to be ND5. Deal for Hammond group number is going to be group number 2. And authentication, we are going to use an pre-share key. Now, after that is done, we need to go ahead and configure crypto ISACamp key. Let's just do CCNP security 8, and this one is going to be for any IP address. So we are going to use a wildcard mask. There we go. So if you want to see the keys, that because on the hub we have configured 2 keys, CCNP sec and CCNP sec 8. So if you want to do that, let's just do show crypto ISACamp key. Um, and as you can see, we have 2. One for 30.1.1.2, which is CCNP sec, and one for any IP address, which is CCNP security 8. All right, so that is good. Now let's go ahead and configure um, IKEv version 1 phase 2, which is IPSEC transform set. This one we're going to be called DVTI set, and we're going to use an ESP, AES 256, and ESP SHA with HMAC, and the mode is going to be tunnel mode. Then after that, we need to create the IPsec profile. We're going to record the DVTI profile. Okay, so we have configured the SVTI, and I noticed that I did something, I configured something wrong. So I'm not going to be using this crypto ISACAM key. We're actually going to be using a keyring for this. So let's go ahead and do a no, paste it over here. Good, so we're not going to be using this key. We are going to be using actually a keyring. So let's go ahead and configure a keyring, which is crypto keyring, and we are going to just call it DVTI keyring. And inside this keyring, we need to do a couple of pairs. So, well, actually, we're not going to do pairs because that's for IKE version 1, for IKE version 2. So what we need to do is we need to configure a pre-share key, and the address is going to be a wildcard mask, and the key is going to be CCNP security 8. There you go. So we are done with that keyring. We have configured the SVTI, the transform set, the profile. So now what we need to do is we need to go back to that profile. Right? Let's go ahead and go back to the profile, and then let's go ahead and attach set transform set. And we need to attach our transform set, which we call DVTI set. There it is. So now let's see what we need to do next. What we need to do next is that we have to go ahead and configure that virtual template, which is going to be the DVTI. And the way that you do that, you do an interface virtual template, and this virtual template is going to be a type of tunnel. And we have to give it a number. It's going to be number 8. There we go. So inside this tunnel, what we need to do, let's go ahead and do a do show IP interface brief. And we are going to be borrowing loopback 8 IP address. So we're going to do IP numbered loopback number 8. And now if we do show IP interface brief, you're going to see that the template has borrowed that IP address of the loopback interface. Okay, so after that is done, you want to do a tunnel mode IPSEC, that's what we're going to be using, and IPv4 because that's what we are going to be using. And then we need to go ahead and attach that tunnel protection IPsec profile, and we need to attach that DVTI profile. There we go. So after that is done, we need to go ahead and configure a ISACAM profile and attach that virtual template that we just created, and also attach that keyring that we created, and also do a match identity. So let's go ahead and do that. Crypto ISACAM profile DVTI. All right, let's go ahead and do ISACAM profile. Okay, and the first thing that we need to do is we need to do a match identity. And for this match identity is whatever you want to allow. So since we are going to be allowing, um, let's go ahead and do address. We can just do 0.0.0.0.0.0. All right, so that's a wildcard. So we're going to allow anything. Then we need to go ahead and attach that virtual template, and that virtual template we call it was number 8. And then we need to attach that keyring, which we call, see if we can find it, DVTI keyring. There we go. That is done. And now let's go ahead and do it EIGRP or router, EIGRP 8. No auto summary. Let's just go ahead and add the network of 8.8.8.8. Right? That was the, yep, the DVTI 8.8.8. And it's going to be like that. Okay, so we are done configuring the DVTI from the hub, and now we need to configure the spokes, and it's going to be a little bit different um, from the spokes because we're not going to be using a virtual template. We are just going to be using a tunnel interface, and since we are going to be using um, the same IKE version 1, phase 1, and phase 2, and all that, so what we need to do from here is that I want to copy and paste my IKE version 1 phase 1 configuration and IKE version 2 configuration as well. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and do a show run section crypto. Section crypto. And there it is. So let's go ahead and just copy all of this. And since we have two policies, the policy that we are using is policy 8. So we only need to copy policy 8. Copy the, oops, copy, not paste. Let's go ahead and put it on my notepad. Let's go ahead and make it like this so I don't get confused. So we have policy H, 3-MD5, pre-share key, group number 2, CCMP, that's not the correct one, so we're going to be using 8, and the address that is going to be going to, it is going to be going to 192.1.80.1 because we are only going to be forming that DVTI with the hub. So 192.1.80.1, which is the NBMA IP address of the hub. So of that gigabit 00 interface IP address is that one. So that's the one that I need to match. I do not need to configure a ISACAM profile. That was only for the hub. So we can go ahead and remove that as well as the keyring. The virtual template needs to be gone as well. ISACAM DVTI is the one that we're going to be using. SVTI was for the other SVTI. And let's go ahead and remove this. So let's go ahead and verify that everything is good. CCMP security 8. And let me verify. Okay, all of that is good. So now let's go ahead and copy all of this. And we're going to paste it into router 1. First, go ahead and config T. Done. Now let's go ahead and do it for router 2. Config T. Paste. And then we're going to do it into router 3. Paste. There we go. So we are done with that. So we are done with egress1 phase 1 and phase 2. Now what we need to do is we need to configure the interface. So let's go ahead and do that. The interface and also EIGRP. So we can form an error relationship. Let's go ahead to router 1. Exit. Tunnel. Interface tunnel. Let's just go ahead and do tunnel 0. Then do a do show IP interface brief. We are going to use some loopback 0 so we can get that IP address, IP on number, loopback 0. Show IP interface brief. There we go. We are borrowing that from loopback 0. Good. So now we need to know a tunnel source is gigabit 00 for router 1. Tunnel destination. The destination is going to be the NBMA IP address 192.1.80.1. And then we need to do the tunnel protection IPSEC profile. And the IPSEC profile that we configure over here was the DVTI profile. And we attach it right here. You can see that ISAC amp is now on. And if you go to the hub, you can see that we have a virtual access. And if you do a show IP interface brief, the virtual access 1, it is on the state of down. So it is down right now. Let's go ahead and verify my configuration. Did I do the tunnel mode IPsec? I did not do that. So let's go ahead into router 1 and do the tunnel mode IPsec with IPv4. And you can see now that the virtual interface came up. Okay, let's go ahead and do show IP interface brief. You can see that that virtual interface is now up. So now let's go ahead and configure router 2. And if you don't want to, we can just do a copy and paste. So we can do n show run, and we can copy that interface, that tunnel interface that we just created. And if we do a from over here, show IP, do show IP interface brief. We are using loopback 0, so it is all the same. We do not need to change anything. So let's go ahead and paste it. ISAC is on. Interface is up. Let's go ahead and go to the hub. You can see that now we have created another virtual interface 2. Show IP interface brief. You can see that we have both access 1, which is for router 1, and access 2, which is for router 2. Let's go ahead and do show IP interface brief. We can see that we're using loopback 0, so we don't need to change anything. And there it is, change to up. And if we go to the hub, you can see that virtual access 3 is now up and running. And if we do a show IP interface brief, you can see that virtual access 1, which is for router 1, access 2 for router 2, and access 3 for router 3 are now up and running. And like I said before, you only need one physical interface to configure multiple tunnels because we're using DVTI. If you was configuring SVTI, you have to configure in each physical interface, and therefore was going to um, consume a lot more resources. And that's why we're doing DVTI. So now if you wanna, let's go ahead and do the EIGRP that we have not done for router 1, config T. Let's go ahead and do EIGR router EIGRP, and I believe we did EIGRP 8. Let's do the network of, for this one is 1.1.1.1, and that should form a neighbor relationship. There we go, with neighbor 8, which is the hub 8.8.8. And now we could just go ahead and do the same. Router EIGRP 8, network 2.2.2.2, which is the IP address of my tunnel interface. And you can see we have formed another neighbor relationship with neighbor 8, right? Now let's go ahead and do it for router 3. Let's go ahead and do just router EIGRP 8, and we need to add a couple networks for this one. This one is going to be 3.3.3.3, and also network 10.10.30.0. That's 255. Okay. Um, so now if we go to the hub, we have three neighbor relationship. So if we do a show IP interface or show IP EIGRP neighbors, you're going to see that we have one neighbor relationship for autonomous system 4, which is the static um, the static virtual interface or the static virtual tunnel interface. And then we have for AS8 or autonomous system 8, we have three neighbor relationship, which is 3, router 2, and router 1. And router 3 is using virtual interface 3, virtual interface 2, and virtual interface 1. Also, you can do a show IP route and just show the EIGRP route. There we go. You can see that we have learned network 1, network 2, network 3, network 4, and they are all going via the virtual interface, access 1 and access 2. That means that everything is going to be encrypted. And you can see that we also learned another one via 3.3.3.3 via the virtual access 3. So we learned 2 via virtual access 3, which is great. So now if we do a show crypto ISACamp SA detail, it shows you the connection details, as you can see right here. And my favorite command, um, which is the show crypto engine connection active. And it can show you all the active connections that we have over here, which is good. So now let's go ahead and try from router 1. We are going to ping the 10.10.30.1. If we do, actually we're going to do a trace route to 10.10.30.1. And you're going to see that we are sending it via that the hub, and then it goes to router 3. So we don't have a straight connection to router 3 because we don't have any spoke-to-spoke communication. We only have a hub-to-spoke communication. Therefore, if this hub goes down, we won't be able to get to router 3, which is why DMVPNs face version 3 and face version 2 is better. Or face version 3 is better because when you configure DMVPN face version 3 and after you learn the route, if the hub goes down, you're still able to communicate with router 3 because in DMVPN face version 3, you're able to form a hub to spoke communication and also a spoke to spoke communication. So after you learn that router 3, you're able to reach it um, via a faster route, via a better route. It's going to just form an area relationship with router 3 and it's going to leave the hub alone. Therefore, a DVTI uses a lot of more resources on the hub. So you need to have a hub that could that has a lot of resources and that is able to um, be up to the task of routing all the traffic in router 1, router 2, and router 3 because everything is going to go through the hub. Okay, and if the hub goes down, then everything goes down, which is it's not good. So now let's go ahead and also do a show from the hub. Let's do it from the hub so because we can see a lot more. Show ISACamp we're going to do IPSEC so we can see face version 2. And we can see the details because we can see a lot more. We can see that this is for tunnel 4. So tunnel 4 is for the SVTI. You can see that the local address 30.1.1.1. We already saw that. So let's go ahead and see the other IPsec SA, which is for virtual access 1, which is the one for router 1. And you can see that the current peers, the 192.1.10. You can see all the packets that we have sent, 119 and 88. Those are hello packets that are being sent from EIGRP and they are being encrypted and decrypted. Let's see if we can see the other one. Here we go, virtual access 2. Um, current peer is that one. Here are the encrypted and decrypted packets. And we can see that we are using ESP, right? Here's the ESP configuration. We're using the tunnel mode or the mode tunnel. And we're using ESP256 with AES and ESP with HMAC. Here's virtual access 3, which is for router 3. We can see that the current peer 192.1.30.1, correct, encrypted and decrypted. Good. We can see that local endpoint, the remote endpoint. We can see that it is active. We can see the ESP256 AES and ESP SHA with HMAC. So life is good, guys. So this is it. This is it for this video, guys. I hope you guys learn. I hope you guys understand the difference between SVTI and DVTI, why DVTI is a lot better than SVTI, because whenever you have a lot of SVTI configurations, it is going to be a lot harder to manage all of those um, physical interfaces, right? If you only have one interface for a bunch of um, routers, then it is a lot easier to configure. But the bad thing about doing a DVTI is that if the hub goes down, then we won't be able to have a connection with the other spokes. That's why it is better to configure a DMVPN, which I have videos on how to configure DMVPN phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and phase 4. And phase 4 is just adding IKE version 2. So on the next video, on my next video, I'm going to reconfigure SVTI and DVTI, but in that other video is going to be with IKE version 2, which is a lot better than IKE version 1. Actually, IKE version 1 that we just configured right now, it is not allowed to be configured anymore. Has Cisco because it just not secure anymore. And this is it for this video, guys. And if you guys want to go ahead and subscribe to my channel, also after you subscribe to my channel, you can just go ahead and follow me on Twitter at TCNA Daily Tips if you have a Twitter account. And if you do not have a Twitter account, guys, go ahead and create one and then follow me. Thank you guys for watching this video. I will see you in the next one, guys, and I love you. Bye bye.